Hey guys, welcome back. On today's video, we're going to look at the offensive line grades and some All-22 film from preseason week 3 of the Dolphins versus the Buccaneers. Before we get into the players who did grade out for this game, we got to look at a couple that came up as DNQs, did not qualify. Again, these players are ones that played less than 10 snaps. So I treat them as a did not qualify for a grade because for some of these guys, they may have had one or two bad snaps, and it would result in their grade looking much worse than maybe it would have had they played more. So the three players we've got today for did not qualify. First is Jack Driscoll at center. Uh, just a little bit on him. I did not feel that he played well at center through the preseason in the few snaps that he did get. If I was going to pick a position for Jack Driscoll to play, it would be right guard in this offense. Another player that did not qualify from this week's game was Ryan Hayes, and he just had limited snaps at right tackle. Driscoll started at center, and then after the first or second drive, moved over to right tackle to replace Hayes, and Hayes just didn't play enough snaps to qualify. And then the third did not qualify would be Bayron Matos, and he had two separate appearances, but his total snaps were only 8 in the game. So again, this was another player that did not qualify. As we move into the players that did qualify for grades, first let's take a look at the overall grade of a 7.33 for this week. And we are going to start from the lowest graded player and work through to the highest graded player of this week. The way that they will display on the graphic here is going to be the order that they appeared in the game. With that said, our lowest graded player of the week this week was Chasen Hines, who came in at a 6.17, and that was on a total of 49 snaps. In last week's game, Hines only had limited snaps and really seemed like they were trying to protect him with him just coming back onto the roster. In this game, they kind of expanded his role, and he kind of showed why he was cut in the first place and why he's not a great fit in this offense. The play here that we're going to look at is going to be an outside zone to the left, and you can see that he gets a little bit of help from Paul, and he needs to really be able to get his hat to the play side of this defender and seal him off. And as you can see here, that doesn't happen. He doesn't get all the way across that defender. He's not able to get that outside leverage, and the defender is able to shed the block and get into the backfield. And another one here for Hines at left guard. So this is going to be a pass play, and we're going to get a stunt up front. His tackle is going to slant to the outside. Linebacker is going to come to the inside. And you can see that Hines is very late reacting to that. Thankfully, Thompson gets the ball out, but that still reflects as a 0 grade in my grading. Our next lowest graded player is going to be Lester Cotton, who got the start at right guard this week. I also think that if Aaron Brewer is out, he will also get the start at right guard to begin the regular season. And I think that's kind of a good thing for the Dolphins in the sense that if this was going to be a long-term injury for Aaron Brewer, I think they may have looked at getting Driscoll into that starting lineup because I feel like it's going to be a short-term injury. I think they're going to go with the guy they know in Lester Cotton just to kind of keep the ship upright for a week or two if that's necessary before we can get Brewer back into the lineup at center, moving Eichenberg back over to right guard, and keeping Driscoll as the utility backup. Looking at the All-22 for Lester Cotton, so this is going to be the play that has been shared a lot, and this is the one where Vita Vea drives Jack Driscoll back into the backfield. But I want you to really pay attention to Lester Cotton instead. And what we should have gotten on this play was Cotton giving a little more help to Driscoll on this because he's aiming for that backside linebacker, which means as he's going through to the left, there's an opportunity there to use that left forearm to really spill Vita Vea to the backside of this play. And instead, you can see that Cotton really doesn't give Driscoll any help. And clearly, Driscoll isn't strong enough to hold up to that, which a lot of centers aren't. Um, but in addition to that, so the idea here is that should have a combo between Driscoll and Lester Cotton working up to this linebacker here. And you can see that Cotton, in addition to not really helping Driscoll at all, is then not able to climb to that linebacker. And one more for Cotton here. So this is going to be I believe, inside zone to the left. And what we should be getting is Cotton playing through this defensive tackle's inside shoulder here up to the linebacker. And Driscoll's as much at fault for this as well. And he did not get a good grade for this play either. But as the play starts here, you can see that instead of getting vertical through that shoulder, Cotton's hand is kind of reaching back across that defender, so he's really not able to get any movement. Driscoll should be trying to get that head to the far side. Clearly some sort of miscommunication there, but rather than getting the vertical movement here up through that linebacker, I think Cotton feels that Driscoll is not there and tries to circle around and stay on the first level defender, but instead we end up with neither defender getting blocked at all. So I did give Cotton half credit on this play just because I feel it was Driscoll's issue more than Cotton, but had Cotton played through that inside shoulder of that defensive tackle climbing to this linebacker, then maybe we would have been able to get at least the first level of this play blocked up decently. All right, coming back over to our grades here. Next one is also going to be right guard, and that's going to be Matthew Jones coming in at a 7.28, which, as you can see, is pretty close to the overall average for this game for the offensive line. Overall, I think that Matthew Jones is along the same lines as a Rob Jones or Lester Cotton, where he could develop into a solid NFL player, but in terms of ideal fits for this offense, he's just not going to be athletic enough for it. The play that we have here has nothing to do with his athleticism. Instead, we're going to see a zone to the right, and you can tell that because of everybody stepping to the right, right? Watching Patrick Paul, we got Chasen Hines, Andrew Meyer, Jack Driscoll. Everybody is stepping to the right, and you'll see the running back's path is also going to the right. Everybody except for Matthew Jones, who for some reason is blocking to the inside here. In a zone play, he should be climbing to this 3 technique tackle right here. And what we're going to end up with is just leaving him completely unblocked. Thankfully, Jalen Wright's able to, just use talent and outrun that defensive tackle, but clearly not on the same page. And it seems like Matthew Jones is the only one out of 7 or 8 players in this frame that was running a different play here. All right, one more here for Matt Jones at right guard. So this is going to be a zone to the left, and we're going to see a better play of this later. Jones is going to be trying to reach this nose tackle, and that's a tough block. Struggles to get his head across. Same with Jack Driscoll here. But what we'll see in this clip versus the one that we'll see later is that these guys really don't do a good job of continuing to drive their defenders down to open up that cutback lane right there. And you can see that causes the running back to hesitate. Whereas, had they been able to, even though they don't have great position here, if these two, Driscoll and Jones, continue to drive their guys to the sideline, then right here is where that cutback lane opens up. But they just don't get enough of their defenders to give that running back confidence in the cutback lane. Moving along, coming in a respectable 7.88. is Andrew Meyer. He's done a good job in this preseason, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him sticking on the 53 as the backup center until Aaron Brewer is able to return. But after that, we're probably looking at a practice squad player. Here's one of the plays that I have for Myers. So we're going to have a half slide to the right, and we can see that off the snap here that that two-eye defensive tackle slants across Myers' face. And what I really like about this is that Meyer does a really good job of not leaning too far to the right. He's able to plant that right foot, get that good, they call it a shin angle with that left foot, and he's able to turn and run and still be able to block that guy. A lot of times with that type of block, you'll see, especially with the interior offensive line, that they're unable to react and to slow down that defender. So this was a really good job by Meyer of being able to react to that move and be able to counter, sink his hips, lose a little ground here, and then be able to accelerate and still be effective on this play. On the flip side, it wasn't all, roses for Andrew Meyer. Here we're going to have a slide to the left. We have three defenders over there, right? 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be Paul, Hines, and Meyer responsible for those three. And what we're going to see is that Meyer starts out with the defensive tackle. Hines does a good job with eyes on that linebacker. Linebacker crosses over. Hines takes the defensive tackle. And Meyer's late getting over to that linebacker. Thompson does a good job of just getting the ball away, but still an area that Meyer needs to continue to improve on, of being able to recognize and communicate those stunts and get to the block a little quicker. Next up at right tackle, we got Jack Driscoll. Came in at a 8.10, so a pretty good grade for him on the day here. This was the only play that I had graded as a 0 for Jack Driscoll at right tackle from this game. So we're going to get a combination block between Driscoll and Rucci here from 57 up to 39. And you'll see 39 filling up there pretty quickly, which takes Rucci off of that combination block pretty quickly. You can see that Driscoll ends up on the ground. Doesn't look like he was tripped by anybody, just kind of gets overextended. And number 57 is able to use that to pull him down into the ground and then eventually make the play on that. Just need to see Driscoll with a little more power. He's obviously got the athleticism to close that gap. Just needs to play with a little more strength in the hips there to be able to prevent that defensive end from being able to snatch him and pull him into the ground. And here's another outside zone to the right with Driscoll here as the right tackle. And what we're going to see here is that Driscoll does not necessarily get outside leverage on number 58, but if you look at where he starts inside the hash mark here, and then as the play progresses, we can see that he's able to move him all the way outside of that hash mark. So this is an example of where not able to get the ideal position on this play. Matt Jones here at right guard was more of the issue that caused the cutback. But Driscoll does a good job on this play of creating movement even when they can't get that outside hat placement. And as a result, even Jones on this play obviously don't want guys in the backfield, but being able to seal him from making the play at least gives the back a chance to cut back and make a play. All right, just a couple more left here. Coming in at 8.16 is Patrick Paul. I thought it was really good to see him get as many snaps as he did through the preseason, and saw a lot of good stuff. Obviously, a few things that he still needs to continue to improve on, but overall through this preseason, I felt like Patrick Paul did everything that I expected in terms of, the guy that we have waiting to become our left tackle of the future once Teron Armstead hangs it up, probably after this season. So we've talked about this before, but one of the things that definitely sets Patrick Paul apart from some of the other options that might have been available at tackle is his ability to get out in space for as big as he is. I couldn't imagine being a defensive back and seeing this big of a guy running at you in the open field. And that's what you can see here is that, this defensive back, once he sees that, is retreating before Paul even gets there. And this is something that is required by the tackles in this offense. This is something that you can't watch every Sunday and find NFL offensive tackles that can pull and get into space like this. And, the Dolphins have 3 of them in Teron Armstead, Austin Jackson, and now Patrick Paul. And then I told you earlier in the video that we were going to see a play that was kind of the opposite of what we saw from Matt Jones and Jack Driscoll earlier in terms of backside blocking on these zone plays. This is also a play that we already reviewed as a good one for Jack Driscoll. But this time I want you to really pay attention to Patrick Paul on the backside here. And as you can see, the idea here, and I think that Chasen Hines goes to the wrong linebacker. I think that the 2 of them should be comboing up to number 53 here. But you can see that Hines is really reaching to go front side. Paul is coming down to try to take over that block. Because of the way that defensive tackle reacts, Paul is not able to get his head to the front side. But where we saw before that defender may have ended up about right there, you can see that Paul continues to take him and just wash him the whole way down, which is what opens up that cutback lane. So this is kind of a teach tape in a way of what you'd want to see if you're not able to get that head across and get that front side cutoff. You can still get a good play out of it just by continuing to run your feet and to wash that guy all the way across the formation. I mean, that guy's going from one hash all the way to the other with Paul blocking through him. And then our final grade of the week is going to be Rob Jones coming in at a 9.04. If you followed my videos, you know from the very beginning that I have been a Rob Jones fan, that I felt that he should be in this starting lineup. This game in particular, he only played 13 snaps and only had 1 play where he was graded with half credit. So it was a short appearance, but pretty solid from him. And that's what we've come to expect from Rob Jones over the years, and what I expect to see from him in the starting lineup in 2024. And this here is going to be the play where I gave Jones half credit. And the reason I didn't give him a 0 on this is even though he didn't react as well as Meyer did earlier on this block, he is still able to stay connected, stay on that defensive tackle's hip a little bit, and be able to drive him a little wider and give Mike White an opportunity to get that ball out. All right, that's going to do it for our grading for the preseason. As we get into the regular season, I'm going to continue to do these videos along with the grades that I've been doing for a few years now, depending on when the All-22 comes available and when I'm able to sit down and do my grading. I would say to look for those videos to hopefully come out on a Tuesday or Wednesday, assuming the team plays on a Sunday. As always, really appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a share. Let's try to get some more people talking about offensive line. Feel free to leave some comments below or to come talk to me on Twitter. My handle there is the same as YouTube, and that's at OLCoachSmith63. And we'll talk again next week.